I built this life. She burned it.
The sound of Sophie's voice through the thin workshop walls hit me like a sledgehammer to the gut. If Dad finds out about Mom and Uncle Ryan, he'll lose it. But honestly, maybe he deserves it. I froze, my hand gripping the sandpaper so tight it crumpled. The cabinet I'd been refinishing suddenly seemed insignificant compared to what my 17-year-old daughter had just said. Uncle Ryan. My best friend since high school. My wife's what exactly? I'm Mike Halverson, 44 years old, owner of Halverson Custom Woodworks here in Millbrook, Maine. I build furniture for rich folks who want authentic craftsmanship, but wouldn't know a dovetail joint from their own rear end. It's honest work, even if the customers aren't always honest people. Sophie's voice continued through the wall, muffled but clear enough. I mean, Dad's always in that stupid workshop. Mom's probably lonely. Malarmed. Lonely. Right. Because working 60-hour weeks to pay for Sophie's college fund and Erica's designer everything was apparently neglectful of me. I set down my tools and walked to the small window overlooking our driveway. Erica's BMW wasn't there. Again. Third time this week she'd worked late at Morrison & Associates Architecture. Or so she claimed. The pieces started clicking together like a perfectly fitted mortise and tenon joint. The hushed phone calls that stopped when I entered rooms. The new lingerie I'd found in the laundry that she'd never worn for me. The way she flinched when I touched her shoulder last month. And Ryan. Good old Ryan Madsen, my former best friend who'd been coming around more often lately. Always with some excuse about needing to check on us, since his real estate business was doing so well. The same Ryan who knew I worked late in the shop most evenings. The same Ryan who'd always had a thing for Erica back in high school, before I'd won her over with my devastating charm and rugged good looks. Well, mostly just persistence, and the fact that I actually listened to her. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through Erica's recent behavior. The girls' trip to Portland she'd mentioned for this weekend. The way she'd been extra sweet lately, making my favorite meals and actually showing interest in my work. Classic guilt behavior. My phone buzzed. A text from my neighbor, Mrs. Chen. Saw Erica leaving with a suitcase around noon. Thought you should know. Noon. She'd told me she was leaving Friday evening. It was Thursday. I walked back into the house, my work boots heavy on the hardwood floors I'd installed myself 3 years ago. Everything in this house had my hands on it. The custom cabinets, the built-in bookshelves, the oak staircase with hand-carved balusters. I'd built this home for my family, and apparently, my family was busy tearing it apart. Sophie was in the kitchen, earbuds in, scrolling through TikTok. She looked up when I entered, and I saw something in her eyes. Guilt? Pity? Both? Hey, Dad, Mom left for her trip. Bookbots, he heard. I opened the refrigerator, not really looking for anything. You okay here for the weekend? I'm 17, not 7. Besides, I might stay at Jessica's Saturday night. Crimson. My mind racing. Erica was supposedly in Portland with her girlfriends. Home our family beach house empty. This house Ryan had helped me renovate house last summer. The same beach house that had a hidden room behind the master bedroom that we discovered during the renovation and decided to keep for acky quirky feature. The same beach house Ryan had joked about bringing dates if her ever single again. I closed the refrigerator and looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. She had Erica's green eyes, and my stubborn chin. She was caught in the middle of whatever mess her mother had created, and that wasn't fair to her. Sophie, if you knew something that might hurt Semitism. She pulled out one earbud. What kind of something? Hypothetically. She was quiet for a moment, then shrugged. If I guess it depends on whether they'd reps by knowing or not knowing. One kid, too smart for her, elected for Jessica's house. I drove to the Winnar main house, but it felt like crossing into enemy territory. I parked behind the old oak tree where my truck wouldn't be side from the road, and used my key till I let myself in. The house smelled like the vanilla candles Erica lovely. Fresh flowers sat on the kitchen counter, wine glasses in the sink. Button. 2 wine glasses. I I walked to the rest Betty beyond the hidden panel that opened the secret room. It was small, maybe 6 by 8 feet, with a one-way bedroom that looked into the bedroom. The previous owners had been eccentric, to put it mildly. When Ryan and I had discovered it during renovations, we'd laughed about it. Like something out of a spy movie, he'd said. Now it felt like the universally did sticks of humor. I set up my phone to record and settled in to wait. If I was wrong, I'd feel like an idiot and go home. If I was right, well, I'd cross that too till I came to it. I didn't have to wait long. At 10:47 p.m., I heard car doors slam. We heard Hart hammered ahead as I peered the one-way mirror into the bedroom. Erica's voice carried through the house, higher and more anything that I'd heard it in months. I can't believe we did this. I've been wanting to get you for so long. Ryan's deeper voice responded, It's pert Mike never comes here during the week. Wrong, buddy. So very wrong. They entered the bedroom, and I had your first clear look at my wife with another man. Erica wore a red dress I'd never seen before, something that hugged her and made her look 10 years. Her hair was loose around her shoulders instead of the practical ponytail she usually wore. She looked beautiful. She looked happy. She looked nothing like the woman who'd been sharing my bed for the past 6 months, going through the motions of our marriage like she was reading from a script. Ryan moved behind her, his hands on her waist, and kissed her neck. She melted into him in a way that made my chest tighten. When was the last time she'd responded to my touch like that? I love you, she whispered, turning in his arms. I love you too. I should have fought for you 20 years ago instead of letting Mike win. Letting Mike win. Like I was some prize in a contest, instead of the man who'd built a life with her, who'd held her hand through her father's funeral, who'd stayed up all night when Sophie had pneumonia as a baby. I started recording as they began undressing each other, with the desperate passion of people who'd been denying themselves for too long. My wife's body, which I knew better than my own, responding to another man's touch. My best friend's hands on the woman I'd promised to love and protect. The rational part of my brain told me to leave. I had enough evidence, but I couldn't move. I was transfixed by the destruction of my life, watching it unfold in real time through a one-way mirror like some twisted reality show. They made love with an intensity that Erica and I hadn't shared in years, maybe ever. She was vocal, passionate, completely uninhibited. Ryan was gentle but confident, like he knew exactly what she needed. When it was over, they lay tangled in sheets I'd bought for family vacations, talking in the low, intimate voices of people who'd found their missing piece. What are we going to tell them? Erica asked, tracing circles on Ryan's chest. We'll figure it out. Julia's been suspicious anyway. And Mike, he's a good guy. He doesn't deserve this. But I can't give you up. Not again. A good guy. How generous of him. I feel terrible about Sophie. She knows something's going on. Kids are resilient. She'll understand eventually. No, she wouldn't. Because she was 17 and still believed her parents were the good guys in her story. This would shatter that illusion, and there was no amount of resilience that would fix it completely. I stopped recording and slipped out of the house while they were in the shower together. My hands shook as I drove home, the video file burning a hole in my phone, like evidence of a crime I'd committed instead of discovered. Back in my workshop, I sat in the dark for hours, trying to process what I'd seen. 22 years of marriage, 2 decades of building a life together, of compromise and shared dreams, and inside jokes that no one else understood. Gone. Replaced by red dresses and secret weekend getaways, and my best friend's hands on my wife's body. The smart thing would be to call a lawyer, file for divorce, split everything 50-50, and try to maintain some dignity in the process. But I wasn't feeling particularly smart. I was feeling angry and hurt, and like the fool who'd been working his A off to provide for a family that was busy replacing him. By sunrise, I had a plan. It wasn't a good plan, and it probably wasn't a smart plan, but it was my plan. And for the first time in months, I felt like I had some control over my life. I called Julia Madsen. Mike, it's 6 a.m. Is everything okay? On your definition of okay, we need to talk. In person. Today. There was a pause. About what? About why our spouses are at my beach house together right now instead of where they told us they'd be. Another pause, longer this time. When Julia spoke again, her voice was different, harder. I'll be right over. Julia arrived 30 minutes later with coffee and the kind of grim expression I recognized from my own mirror. She was a small woman, barely 5'2", with short brown hair and the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who managed a household with 3 kids under 15. She'd always been the practical one in our group, the one who remembered birthdays and organized neighborhood barbecues and kept the rest of us functioning adults. I showed her the video. She watched it twice without saying a word, her face growing paler with each passing minute. When it ended, she set my phone down carefully and stared at her coffee. "How long have you known?" she asked. "Since yesterday. You?" "I've suspected for about 2 months. Ryan's been different, happier, more attentive to his appearance, working late more often." She looked up at me. "I hired a private investigator last week." "And?" "He confirmed it yesterday. That's why I'm not more surprised by this." She gestured at my phone. "Though seeing it is different than knowing it." We sat in silence for a moment. 2 people whose lives lived in the world that we found it. We sat in Gettinger Lively. Ryan's taker right now, then not left with him. We sat in silence. That's why I'm not more surprised by this. Though seeing it is different, unless 2 people whose lives had been quietly demolished while they weren't paying attention. "What do you want to do about it?" I asked. Julia's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "I want them to hurt the way we're hurting. I want them to be as humiliated and betrayed as we are. And I want everyone in this town to know exactly what kind of people they really are." I liked Julia's thinking. "I have an idea," I said. The plan was simple. Public humiliation with a side of social media destruction. Julia and I spent Saturday morning preparing, while our respective spouses were busy betraying us in high-definition detail. First, we gathered evidence. Julia's private investigator had photos of Ryan and Erica at restaurants, holding hands in his car, kissing outside her office building. I had the video from the beach house and screenshots of text messages I'd found on an old phone Erica had forgotten in her car. The messages were worse than the video somehow. Intimate conversations about their feelings, their plans, their complaints about their current spouses. I was emotionally distant and obsessed with work. Julia was controlling and suspicious. We were obstacles to their great love story, inconvenient details to be managed. Second, we planned the reveal. Julia's youngest daughter Emma had a birthday party scheduled for Sunday afternoon. The whole neighborhood would be there, including several mutual friends, Erica's boss from the architecture firm, and most importantly, Ryan's biggest real estate clients. The Hendersons were looking to buy $1 million waterfront property, and Ryan had been courting them for months. "Are you sure about this?" Julia asked as we finalized the details. "Once we do this, there's no going back. Our marriages are over. They're already over," I said. "We're just making it official." Sunday morning, Erica came home glowing with what she claimed was the rejuvenating power of a girls' weekend in Portland. She showed me pictures on her phone of the hotel, the restaurants, the shopping, all carefully staged lies. "How was your weekend?" she asked, kissing my cheek with lips that had been on another man's body 48 hours earlier. "Productive," I said. "Got a lot of work done." Smiled and went upstairs to unpack, humming something under her breath. I hadn't heard her hum in years. The party started at 2. By 1:45, I was set up in the Madsons' backyard with a borrowed projector and a laptop, ostensibly to show a slideshow of Emma's childhood photos. Julia had convinced Ryan to invite the Hendersons and several other clients, telling him it would be good for business to show his family-oriented side. Erica wore a sundress and chatted with the other mothers about school fundraisers and vacation plans. Ryan worked the crowd like the natural salesman he was, making sure everyone had drinks and introducing his potential clients to the right people. They were the picture of suburban success, beloved members of the community living their best lives. At 3:30, Julia called for everyone's attention. "Before we cut Emma's cake, I wanted to share something special with all of you. Mike put together a wonderful slideshow, and we thought it would be nice to show how much our families mean to us." The crowd gathered around as I started the projection. The first few slides were exactly what they expected. Emma as a baby, family vacations, birthday parties, school events. Normal, happy, family memories. Then the photos changed. Ryan and Erica holding hands outside Chez Laurent, the most expensive restaurant in town. Ryan and Erica kissing in his car outside her office. Ryan and Erica entering my beach house together yesterday morning. The crowd went silent. I could hear birds chirping in the trees and someone's dog barking 3 houses down. "What the heck is this?" Ryan's voice cracked like a teenager's.
This!
Julia said, her voice carrying across the yard. "Is what our spouses have been doing while we've been planning birthday parties and paying mortgages and believing we were married to decent people." Erica's face had gone white. "Mike, please. Not like this." "Like what, Erica? In front of our friends and neighbors? The same friends and neighbors you've been lying to for months while you screwed my best friend?" Mrs. Henderson, Ryan's potential $1 million client, grabbed her husband's arm. "We should go." "Gerald, no," Julia said. "You should stay. You should know what kind of man you're thinking of doing business with. The kind who betrays his best friend and destroys his family for a good time." Semantics the slideshow continued. Text message screenshots appeared on the screen, blown up large enough for everyone to read. Erica complaining about our dead bedroom. Ryan calling me clueless. Both of them making plans to leave their spouses once they figured out the logistics. Sophie appeared at my elbow. She'd arrived late from Jessica's house and was staring at the screen with her mouth open. "Dad, what are you doing?" "I'm telling the truth, sweetheart. Something your mother seems to have forgotten how to do." Ragas tried to rush the projector, but Big Eddie Morrison, who owned the local bar and had arms like tree trunks, stepped in his way. "I don't think so, buddy. Let the man finish his presentation." The final slide was the video from the beach house. I'd edited it to show just enough to make the situation clear without being pornographic, but it was devastating nonetheless. My wife and my best friend in my family's bed, declaring their love for each other while planning the destruction of 2 families. When it ended, the silence stretched for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Then Emma, Julia's 8-year-old birthday girl, asked in a voice that carried across the yard, "Daddy, why were you kissing Mrs. Halverson?" And that's when Ryan's world truly fell apart. The aftermath of Emma's innocent question was swift and brutal. Mrs. Henderson and her husband left immediately, taking Ryan's $1 million commission with them. Half the party followed, some out of disgust, others to spread the gossip faster. The remaining guests stood around like rubberneckers at a car accident, unable to look away from the destruction. Erica was crying, mascara streaming down her cheeks. "You've ruined everything. Everything, Mike." Manslaughter. "I ruined everything? I wasn't the one making weekend plans with someone else's husband. You don't understand. You've never understood. We fell in love. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. People can't help who they love. They can help what they do about it. They can help lying about Portland trips and girls' weekends. They can help sneaking around behind their families' backs instead of being honest. Relinqui are gone from angry to desperate. Mike, we can work this out. We're all adults here. Aborts, adults don't betray their best friends. Adults don't destroy their families for a midlife crisis." My arm. "Dad, can we go home? Please?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She was pale and shaking, caught between her parents' war with no good place to land. This was exactly what I'd been trying to avoid. But there was no clean way to handle betrayal. Someone always got hurt. "Yeah, sweetheart, we can go." As we walked toward my truck, Julia caught up with us. "Mike, wait! There's something else. Something you need to know." I stopped, Sophie's hand in mine. "What now?" Glanced around, making sure we were out of earshot from the remaining party guests. "The private investigator I hired? He found more than just photos of Ryan and Erica." Dropped. "More?" "He found evidence that this isn't Ryan's first affair. He's been cheating on me for years. Multiple women. And Erica, she paused, looking at Sophie. Sophie, why don't you wait in the truck? I said. My daughter nodded and walked away, her shoulders hunched like she was carrying the weight of the world. What about Erica? I asked when Sophie was out of earshot. She's been having affairs too. Not just Ryan. There was someone else last year, a client from her firm. And before that, Julia's voice trailed off. The ground felt unsteady beneath my feet. How long? The investigator thinks at least 3 years, maybe longer. 3 years. While I've been working overtime to pay for Sophie's college fund and Erica's dream kitchen renovation, my wife had been systematically betraying our marriage with multiple men. The beach house weekend wasn't a moment of passion or a mistake in judgment. It was part of a pattern. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I thought you deserved to hear it from her. I thought maybe if you confronted her privately, she might be honest with you. Julia's laugh was bitter. I should have known better. Liars don't suddenly become truthful when they're caught. I looked back at the party, where Erica was now arguing with Ryan in hushed, angry whispers. The woman I'd built a life with, who I'd trusted with everything I had, was a stranger. Had always been a stranger, apparently. There's more, Julia said quietly. More what? The investigator ran financial checks as part of his investigation. Erica's been moving money, small amounts but consistently, into an account Ryan doesn't know about. What kind of amounts? About $40,000 over the past 2 years. $40,000. Our emergency fund, Sophie's college money, the savings I'd been adding to every month, thinking we were building security for our family's future. She's been planning this, I said. The affairs, the money, all of it. She's been planning to leave. It looks that way. Instead, felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. Not anger anymore. Something deeper and more dangerous. Erica hadn't just betrayed our marriage. She'd been systematically stealing from our daughter's future, while carrying on multiple affairs and lying about every aspect of her life. The woman I'd loved for 22 years didn't exist. Had never existed. Julia, I need you to do something for me. What? I need you to get me copies of everything your investigator found. Everything. And I need you to trust me for about a week. She studied my face. What are you planning? I'm planning to make sure Erica and Ryan understand exactly what they've destroyed. And I'm planning to make sure Sophie and I don't pay the price for their choices. Julia nodded slowly. I'll get you the files tomorrow. As I drove Sophie home, she finally spoke. How long have you known? A few days. I'm sorry I said you deserved it. I was angry about you working so much, but you don't deserve this. I reached over and squeezed her hand. We're going to be okay, Sophie. I promise. But as I said it, I realized I wasn't the same man who discovered his wife's affair 3 days ago. That man would have filed for divorce and tried to salvage some dignity from the wreckage. The man I was becoming had different plans entirely. By Wednesday, I had everything I needed. Julia's private investigator had been thorough. Bank records showing Erica's systematic theft of our savings. Photos and receipts documenting 3 separate affairs over 4 years. Evidence of Ryan's multiple betrayals of his own marriage, including a pattern of targeting married women in vulnerable situations. But the most damaging evidence came from an unexpected source. Sophie. My daughter had been documenting her mother's behavior on social media for months, posting TikTok videos about weird things my mom does that she thought were funny. Late-night phone calls in the garage. New clothes hidden in the trunk of her car. Sudden interest in working out and getting her hair done. Sophie had unknowingly created a timeline of her mother's affair that was more detailed than anything a private investigator could have produced. Dad, I feel terrible, she said when she showed me the videos. I was making fun of Mom, but I was actually exposing her lies. You were being a normal teenager, sweetheart. You're not responsible for your mother's choices. The final piece of my plan fell into place Thursday morning, when Erica announced she was taking a long weekend to think about our marriage and would be staying at the beach house. I think we need some space to figure out how to move forward, she said over coffee, playing the role of the wounded wife trying to save her marriage. That sounds reasonable, I agreed. Take all the time you need. She looked surprised by my calm response. She'd probably expected me to fight for her, to beg her not to go. Instead, I kissed her forehead and went to work like it was any other day. That evening, I invited everyone to the beach house. Everyone. Erica's parents, who'd driven up from Boston thinking they were coming to help their daughter through a difficult time. Ryan's parents, who'd been told their son was having a crisis and needed family support. Julia and her kids. Sophie. Big Eddie and several of our mutual friends. Even Mrs. Henderson and her husband, who I'd convinced to come by telling them Ryan had something important to say about their business relationship. I also invited Channel 8 News. I told them I had a story about small-town corruption and financial fraud that would interest their viewers. The beach house was packed by 7 p.m. Erica and Ryan had been there since afternoon, probably planning their next moves and enjoying their temporary freedom. They walked into the living room, expecting to find it empty, and instead found 30 people waiting for them. "Surprise," I said. "I thought it was time for some family therapy." Erica's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, fear, anger, and finally a kind of desperate calculation, as she tried to figure out how to manage the situation. "Mike, what is this?" "This is the truth, Erica. Something we haven't had much of in our house lately." I'd set up the projector again, but this time the audience was different. These weren't neighbors at a birthday party. These were the people whose lives had been affected by Erica and Ryan's choices. Parents who'd raised children they thought were decent human beings. Friends who'd been lied to and manipulated. Business associates who'd trusted a man who couldn't be trusted with his own marriage vows. The presentation was comprehensive. Financial records showing Erica's theft of our savings. Evidence of multiple affairs by both Erica and Ryan. Documentation of lies told to family, friends, and business associates. A complete picture of two people who'd been living double lives, while everyone around them paid the price. Erica's mother started crying halfway through. Ryan's father, a retired Marine who had raised his son to believe in honor and integrity, stood up and walked out without saying a word. When I finished, the room was silent except for the sound of Erica sobbing. "There's one more thing," I said. "Erica, you've been worried about how to tell everyone about your plans to leave. Well, now they know. You're free to go. But you're going alone, and you're going with nothing but what you brought into this marriage." I handed her an envelope. "Divorce papers. I'm filing for full custody of Sophie, and I'm pressing charges for theft of marital assets. You have 48 hours to return the money you stole from our daughter's college fund, or the district attorney will be handling this instead of divorce court." Erica looked at the papers, then at me, then at the room full of people staring at her. "You can't do this. You can't destroy my life because you're hurt." "I'm not destroying your life, Erica. I'm revealing it. There's a difference." Tried to step forward. "Mike, this has gone far enough." "Has it? Because I don't think it has. Mrs. Henderson, did you know that Ryan has been using client information to target married women for affairs? That he's been meeting potential mistresses at properties he's supposed to be showing to buyers like you?" Mrs. Henderson's husband stood up. "We're calling our attorney. If our personal information was compromised—" "It was," I said. "I have documentation." The room erupted. Erica's parents demanding explanations. Ryan's mother crying. Julia's children asking why everyone was yelling. Sophie standing in the corner, filming everything on her phone with the detached fascination of her generation. In the middle of the chaos, I walked over to Erica. She was still holding the divorce papers, mascara streaking down her face, looking nothing like the confident, beautiful woman who'd been planning to leave her family for a better life. "You wanted out," I said quietly, so only she could hear. "Now you're out. But you don't get to take half of everything I built while you were busy tearing it down. You don't get to steal from our daughter's future to fund your escape plan. And you don't get to play the victim when the consequences of your choices finally catch up with you." She looked up at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Fear. "I loved you," she whispered. "No," I said. "You loved the idea of me, the security I provided, the life I built for you, the freedom to do whatever you wanted while someone else paid the bills. But you never loved me. If you had, you wouldn't have been able to do this." I walked away from her then, towards Sophie, who was still filming. "You getting all this, sweetheart?" Marginalized. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. For posterity. Good girl. The crowd was beginning to disperse. Some people left in disgust. Others stayed to offer support or get more details. The Channel 8 news crew arrived just as Ryan's parents were leaving, and I gave them an interview about financial fraud and the importance of trust in small communities. By 10 p.m. it was over. Erica and Ryan had left separately, their grand romance reduced to a sordid scandal that would follow them for years. The money was returned to our account within 24 hours. The divorce was finalized within 6 months, with me retaining full custody of Sophie and all marital assets. Ryan's real estate business collapsed within a month. Word travels fast in small towns, and nobody wanted to work with a man who couldn't be trusted with basic human decency. He moved to Portland, where I heard he was working as a car salesman. Erica found a job with an architecture firm in Boston and rented a small apartment near her parents. Sophie visits her once a month, but their relationship will never be the same. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal completely. As for me, I kept building furniture and raising my daughter. Sophie got into her first choice college with a full scholarship, partly because her essay about family dysfunction and personal resilience was apparently very compelling to admissions committees. Sometimes people ask if I regret how I handled things, if I think public humiliation was too harsh a punishment for adultery and theft. I tell them that some betrayals are so complete, so devastating, that they require a complete response. Erica and Ryan didn't just cheat on their spouses. They systematically destroyed the trust that held two families together, while stealing from their children's futures to fund their escape plans. They wanted to be free of their responsibilities and commitments. I made sure they got exactly what they wanted. And sometimes, late at night in my workshop, I think about the man I was before I discovered my wife's affairs. That man believed in forgiveness and second chances and working things out like adults. That man was a fool. The man I became understands that some people will take everything you give them and then ask for more. That kindness can be mistaken for weakness, and trust can be turned against you. I don't miss being that fool, but I do miss believing that the people you love will love you back the same way. Sophie and I are building a new life together, one based on honesty and mutual respect, instead of comfortable lies. It's smaller than what we had before, but it's real. And in the end, that's enough.
하는 거야. 맞아요. 나는 현실만 얘기하잖아. 나는 진실만 얘기하잖아, 방송에서. 오늘 술 먹방 있을 예정. 예, 오늘 화끈하게 한번 놀아볼게. 화끈하게. 아, 장이 찍어주죠. 좌표도 찍어주고 가서 내가 어차피 미션이니까 그거 할 거야. 장미꽃 딱 주면서 오늘 너네 여자다 딱 하고, 예, 좌표 딱 올리고 바로 방송 끄는 거지. 딱 그 느낌으로 갈 거예요. 예. 몰라, 여캠은 한 4-5명 온다고 하던데 남자가 부족하대. 남자가 많이 없대. 꽃집 일단은 커피 마시고 찾자. 여기 어차피 꽃집은 많거든. 예, 커피 한 잔 다 마시러 가거든요. 예, 이거 마시고 찾으러 가자. 아니야, 6시로 바뀌었어. 6시로 일정 변경. 여캠 4-5명에 남자 몇 명 해가지고 오는데 남자가 수가 적어요. 지금 남자 개체 수가 적거든. 예, 그래가지고 약간 내가 캐리해야 돼. 내가 캐리해야 돼. 왜냐면은 내가 대충 봤거든. 근데 다 노답이더라, 씨발 BJ들이. 다 수TV BJ들. 왜냐면 그 방송하시는 분도 수TV BJ 아니면 합방 안 한대. 이제 장미꽃 사러 갈게요. 꽃미남들 나오는 거 아니냐고? 정말 미안. 내가